And we should be live. How are we doing, everybody watching so far? Are we ready for that that deadline coming up? Hi Rishi mate, welcome to the stream. I think with Neto and Bailey, it's really really close. Obviously for me, I could go in with Bailey in the 0.5 in the bank if I want to kind of safeguard myself or react to any movements. But the reality is it's more on the fixtures, I think, for Villa. I mean, when I have a look at the first two fixtures, I think look really really good. I mean, Bournemouth. Scott Parker's already come out and said I think that they're looking really really weak, and I think Bailey could do something there. Really though, it comes down to two main points. Really, is one, are you going to use the 0.5 million for something else? For me, not really. In this structure of the team, I don't think I can actually add any value with that. Just that not saving that 0.5. And also just the longer term, when I look across sort of 7, maybe 8 game weeks, I think Neto's probably more secured, really. Bailey's probably still a bit of a minutes risk, I would say. Although Gerrard has come out and obviously said, he's got the nod maybe for a starting 11, I think really he's still a risk. It's kind of weird, really. It does concern me a little bit by not owning him in some ways, but I like the kind of the 2 8 million midfielders that I've gone with. I'm quite happy with that at the moment. So that's my thinking really in a Neto versus sort of Bailey isolated question. So for Dalot instead of Trippier, I mean, I don't hate the idea of it. I think Dallow's definitely looking more nailed on for United. I think Wan-Bissaka's been linked with possibly a move back to Palace. I'm not 100% sure if that's going to happen or not, but yeah, he looks like he's probably the most likely to play, and at 4.5 million it's okay. I just, again, from a fixture perspective, I just look at what United have got. The first two fixtures are okay, I guess, Brighton and Brentford. Liverpool in that game week 3 though. I suppose as an isolated question again, I would say no, I do prefer Trippier for the kind of longer term, but there's no reason why you can't go with Dalot. It depends on how you're spending that 0.5 as well. If you see the value somewhere else in a team, that's what I'd think about. Did any of you watch the most recent team selection video I did? Because I actually have changed some of the players in there from my last video. I actually tweeted out. I don't know if any of you follow me on Twitter, but tweeted out a kind of left or right option that I've seen a lot of the community kind of doing really, and it was really, I think it was Kane, Cancelo, and Gabriel, I believe, were my defenders before, and I've gone Walker, Robertson, Haaland. So I am worried about Cancelo. Not owning him, I think, is a little bit difficult, but I do really like the 2 8 million midfielders. So I'm kind of in that rock and a hard place really, where I could go Walker to Cancelo or Saka to Martinelli maybe to swap around, but I really really want Trent and Robbo now. I think now I've got those two in my team. I can't go without them, I don't think. Jamie, why should I keep Walker and 0.5 million in the bank or go Perisic? I would personally go Walker and 0.5 in the bank, mate, just because you may have seen that Conte talking about Perisic. And to be honest, when he first signed for Spurs, like my original concern for him was fitness. I mean, he's just come back off of a kind of serious injury. He's not really up to speed in terms of Premier League, sort of football, I guess. He's 33 years old, so, he's not really what he used to be, but he's definitely one to watch. So I would say from a safety perspective, go for Walker. Why not Zinchenko instead of Gabriel, Joe says. Well, for me personally, Zinchenko, from what I was watching of pre-season at least, Zinchenko was a little bit deeper than what I anticipated him to be. He doesn't get into the same positions as, let's say, Robertson, for example, or Cancelo in terms of a wing-back. He seems to be playing a little bit in kind of assisting the assister. It's the pass before the assist gets registered really from an FPL perspective. I think he's a possible option at 5 million. Again, it's a really good price point. The only reason I went with Gabriel in the end was just looking at the stats from a defensive standpoint for who have Arsenal got, Palace and Leicester. They were two of the weakest sides from a set piece defensive point of view, and I think Gabriel might offer some attacking returns just on that basis really. So yeah, again, in isolation it's a bit difficult to say one or the other, but that was my thinking with it. So Mark, RMT, so Ward, Iverson. Okay, you've gone with a double Leicester goalkeeper, Trent, Cancelo, James, Robbo, Mount, Martinelli, Salah, Bailey, Jesus and Kane. Oh, Captain Kane, vice risking keeper combo to funny. Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth it because you're going with the 8 million mid, right? Like you're kind of guaranteed one of them to start. So at the moment, I've gone with Ward just because of what Brendan Rodgers has come out and said. Basically, he looks ready for game week 1, and if he doesn't play, then I've got Sanchez pretty much as a nail pick for Brighton coming on. So I'm not really too fussed about starting with Ward, but I think it's okay to go with those two Leicester keepers. More than likely, though, you're probably going to have to look at an early wild card if you go that route, in my opinion. As Leicester's fixtures really long term, it's a bit risky in terms of keeping up with the points. So that's why I've gone with a preferred rotation, really, with Ward and Sanchez. I think with Kane, for me, the reason why I've actually swapped to Haaland since my last team selection video really is that game week 2. I really want as many teams, as many players as possible to target that Bournemouth fixture. Scott Parker's basically come out and said that their team is not ready. Bournemouth aren't what they need to be in terms of the season. So I just think it's just a fixture we need to be targeting. You can obviously swap to Haaland in game week 2 from Kane, but it's kind of, you've already booked yourself in a transfer. And that was kind of my thinking really, is that longer term, you've got, yes, Haaland potentially might score less points in game week 1 versus Kane when he's got Southampton. West Ham's probably a trickier fixture, but game week 2, it means that I've got more flexibility in terms of other transfers or other areas to look at. So that's what's kind of landed me on that pick really overall. So I think he might be one to just think about again, just for that longer term rather than the short term. I like the setup though. It's very, very template though, to be honest, from what I've seen in Twitter. I don't think you can really go wrong with it, Mark, to be honest. Why no Reece James? I see you have Mount, but Martinelli's 2 mil less than Saka. Yeah, I think, to be honest, that's my debate, right? I've got this kind of thing where I can go Cancelo instead of Walker and Martinelli instead of Saka, and maybe that combination overall is better, especially with Emile Smith-Rowe not hitting fitness in time for game week 1, right? So it could potentially change by 6:30. It's just this is kind of, I like the 2 8 millions. That's why I went with this structure overall. Just because I still think it's going to provide the most value for us, really. But we'll see what happens. I maybe am risking it slightly with it, but that's what's happening in my mind. With no Reece James, I mean, I just, again, from my last video, I kind of explained where my thoughts are with Chelsea. I do like them still as an overall team. I think that they, pre-season, we can't take the data as an absolute must. But I explained in my last video that I think pre-season data, a lot of FPL managers will say, just ignore it. It doesn't really mean anything. But then a lot of our decisions are based on some of that data, right? So I just think it's controversial, or it's just contradictory, really, to kind of sit there and say, I'm picking one player because of pre-season, but I'm not going to pick another for pre-season. It just doesn't make sense. And for me, Chelsea defensively just don't look good enough yet. Long term, sure, James might come into my thinking, or he could come in, but just early on, I just think they're going to concede. Even against Everton, I could see them conceding, to be honest. Cancelo's still in my thoughts, Joe, really. Like, that's kind of, again, the debate that I've just mentioned, really, between Martinelli and Walker. Martinelli and Cancelo versus Walker and Saka. Thanks, Keith, mate. Cheers. I've seen you comment quite a few times on the content, bud, so I appreciate that. Okay, Mark, yeah. I understand the thinking, because that's kind of my original thing, right? Is that I was thinking Kane game week 1, great fixture against Southampton. Trickier against Chelsea, obviously, and then you can just go straight to Haaland for Bournemouth. But I don't want him to do well. Yeah, I understand. I'm a United fan as well, right? So I don't really want to see him smash it. But I just think that it's kind of inevitable, regardless of that absolute, Timo Haaland. I think I watched quite a bit of Mark Goldbridge on the United stand, and that's what he called him, and it just made me chuckle a bit really. That last attempt was shocking, but I don't think we'll see much of that this season. He's going to get tap-ins everywhere, I think, to be honest. Right, your other draft, so Ward, Sanchez. So again, already mentioned about the rotation. I do like it. James, Walker, Trent, White. I think Ben White is a 4.5 option. I'd probably say go to Dalot for the 4.5 option, to be honest, because White's just, I'm not 100% sure on what he's going to do in terms of rotation. And from Arteta's perspective, that is Martinelli, Bailey, Son, Salah. I like the Son pick. That's good. I would say though, if you've got Son, why have you got Kane? You don't necessarily need to double up on the Spurs assets there. Then switching Son to KDB for Bournemouth, or even both Kane and Son to get. Okay, I do like the thinking in that, but again, you're kind of you're booking a -4 already, and in terms of, there's no guarantee, I suppose, that you don't have an injury or something else to deal with. Especially going with, again, what I would consider maybe a riskier pick in Bailey. Right, he's 5 million. He's not easy to get out of. There isn't many people around his price that you can go to. So maybe something to consider. But I do like the draft. Again, pretty template overall, but. It's still very, very good. Sam, mate, I think you should probably go. Let's have a look. Sanchez, Robertson, TAA, Cancelo, Saka, Salah, Bailey, Haaland, Jesus with Neto on the bench. James or Trippier? I mean, the thing is, in isolation, I suppose, for me personally, I've obviously gone for Trippier, right? Like I just think that he's going to offer, especially in those first few weeks, he could potentially get double digits. So could James, arguably, but I think with Trippier on all pretty much set pieces, direct free kicks, corners, pretty much the lot, right? In game week 3 and 5, I've got Andreas to come in, so he's not even a transfer I have to really think about. I do still like Reece James as an option, by the way. It's not just because he's not in my team. It doesn't mean that he's not someone to think about. It's like I say, I just personally think that Chelsea are not looking that great from a defensive output, right? I know they've signed Cucurella now, but that's more of an attacking signing. They've got Koulibaly. Okay, we don't know what he can do, to be honest, in terms of the Premier League. They've got Thiago Silva running the show there in terms of the back line. So I think they'll still be relatively solid, but I can see him conceding, right? So that's why I've gone without him. And that's exactly it, Keith, right? You don't go for James because of defensive points. I know you go for the kind of attacking hauls, right? But again, he hasn't really been involved in much. I've again, from the preseason data, looking at what Mount was producing versus him, he just wasn't doing as much as what he was at the back end of last season. I don't know if that is just a fitness thing, where again it's only preseason, as we kind of like to say. But I just don't know where to fit him in. The only way I could consider doing it really is if I downgraded Saka, or even save Neto to Bailey, and then I'd have to find another 0.5. At this point, I don't know. I really like the 5 million defenders. I just really like them. It's just difficult to get it out of my thinking now, to be honest. But yeah, Mark, I do like the Son to KDB and the Kane to Haaland move. Like I say, it's just you're just booking in transfers, and my personal view is we need to kind of try and avoid that as best as you can. It's okay to have a rough plan, right? Because sometimes things don't go wrong, and you can bank those transfers in. So yeah, from the draft on screen, really, there's a couple of things for me to kind of not necessarily worry about, but just that's potentially ownership threat, and that is Reece James, Martinelli's there, Bailey's another one as well. But I feel comfortable enough to just, like I say again, having these 8 million midfielders to be able to at least match, or if not better, those picks. Yeah, Saka to Martinelli, Trippier to James. I think then I would, to be honest with you, I'd probably go without Walker though. I don't know why. Again, I really like Trippier as a pick. I've got some feeling in my bones that he's just going to do something, right? And he's got, what's those 2 fixtures? Forest and Brighton. I mean, Brighton are probably a little bit better defensively. I'll say a little bit better. They're probably miles better, to be honest. But I still don't mind that pick, even though I've got Sanchez in goal against them. I still think that could even end up being a 0-0, right? City in game week 3, again, I'm not fussed about the City game in 3 or 5 for Liverpool for him, because I can just put Andreas in. I'm more than happy having him in those 2 weeks. And just Saka and Martinelli. It's such a. I don't know. Maybe it is just a schoolboy decision for me, really. But I'll watch the game tonight, right? And we'll soon find out. Again, if you're not following me on Twitter, I'll probably put some updates out on there anyway when I'm watching it tonight. But I just feel like if Martinelli gets or wins a penalty, Martinelli's probably going to be taking it, right? If anyone else wins it, if Jesus wins a penalty, I feel like Saka's going to take it. Again, maybe it's a schoolboy, but we'll. I'm happy to take the L on it, mate, to be honest. So I think I'm going to risk with it. You're going without Jesus and Saka. Martinelli is only Arsenal. Really worry about. Yeah, I know what you're saying. To be fair, that again, I keep going back to the pre-season conversation, right? I don't want to sort of keep going on about it, but I just think that they just look so good from attacking perspective, Arsenal, and I just Palace are no mugs, right? Like they're gonna show up tonight, 100%, and it's away as well. It's not even at the Emirates, right? So you could definitely see a cheeky 1-0 from Palace. I've seen loads of tweets that Zaha 90th minute popping up with a goal. So that potentially could happen, but yeah, I do understand the thinking. So yeah, at that price point, yeah, no, I get it, mate. 6 million, I understand, and you can move him around, right? He is great, and I think. Maybe again, I'm talking about booking in transfers. I'm maybe taking that kind of first early punt. I think Saka's going to outscore Martinelli, and I think Mount's going to outscore more money in the defensive line, right? Because I could easily go, like we just mentioned, Saka to Martinelli, say Trippier to James or someone else. I think this combination may suit, in terms of how many points I get as an overall, it might suit me better. And I can always go down from an 8 million to a 6 million. So if Martinelli smashes it and Saka doesn't, then yeah, I kind of like to say I'm willing to take the L on it. But yeah, I get it with Jesus as well. I think you're right. He is he's really hyped. But when you're scoring goals for fun in pre-season, again, this is what I'm talking about. Like it gets noticed, and then players pick him. Not just on that data, right? Like it's going to be 100% because of how many goals he's scored and what he did do at City from time to time. But I just think he's really a good match for how Arsenal play. He's another kind of tap-in monster and another finesse finisher that I think Arsenal were just missing last season. Lacazette just wasn't doing it, right? He just and Nketiah towards the end, we could say really, really good from him. But if Saka doesn't score tonight and say Mahrez gets a brace, would you swap? I don't know. Because Mahrez again was originally in my thinking, and that was more to do with the target in the Bournemouth fixture, right? Because I had Kane as the striker and then Mahrez as the attacker. Once I watched the Community Shield, though, my thoughts just completely shifted. Wrongly or rightly, again, maybe it's just too knee jerk, or I just overthought it, but. I don't think I'd immediately change, mate. No, to be honest. What's Arsenal's second fixture? Leicester. No, I'll probably keep Saka. Triple Arsenal attack is too risky. No, I think I've seen FPL Harry's gone for Saka and Martinelli. I think, to be honest, it's risky, but you can get out of it, right? Exactly like what Keith's mentioning. You can easily shift or sideline him, really, depending on your bench. So I don't think it's too risky. It's just whether you want to take the punt on it, I suppose. And yeah, that's fair enough, Keith. I do hear that. Shouldn't necessarily overthink the results, but yeah, I don't know. Just like I say, from what I've seen of Jesus in terms of what he's produced, I can just see it continuing, really. And if it doesn't, again, I'll 100% be first to review it and sort of say, well, I made a mistake, and so did 70% of managers, right? It's like 73% ownership on him. And same goes for Reece James. If he goes and absolutely smashes it against Everton and scores 12 points, 15 points, then that's how we do. Mark, who would you downgrade? Reece James to upgrade Iverson. Yeah, mate, I agree. That's exactly why when you sent the first draft over, the two Leicester goalkeepers, we're never going to get a scenario. Well, we might do. I say never. We've had weirder things in FPL, but I just think that, like you mentioned, you're going to be essentially banking in 100% transfers at some point, and like you say, it's almost begging for a -4. The only way that I would consider probably the two Leicester keepers is if I was going to really aggressively wildcard in game week, maybe 3 or 4, so that you're not really just stuck there for too long. But I still think that's too early. I would rather go a little bit later for the wild card. There's some decent graphics out there in the Twitter community, really, in terms of breaking the season down, and I'd highly recommend just kind of thinking and checking it out, because it's completely, the World Cup's completely changed the game for me this season. It's I think it's a lot easier to navigate in blocks, right? So it is a risk going for the Leicester keepers, but it's just again whether you think it's worth adding the 8 mil midfielder in. It's a top 10k or 5 million plus score having 3 Arsenal. Yeah, it's definitely in the punt territory, right? Like it's Palace could fall apart, right? We don't know. Again, it's just too early days. Like it's game week 1. I guess for me, let's go back to that question again then with triple Arsenal. It's, are you going to be happy with your team for 4 or 5 weeks having Saka and Martinelli in there? Yes, you might cover one another, but if Saka's blanking, Martinelli's smashing it, or vice versa, what happens game week 4 or 5 when you maybe want to take out that third or second Arsenal asset and then you get the wrong one? So let's say you want to keep Martinelli in because you think he's on form, he's not going to change anything, then Saka goes and absolutely annihilates it, and you've swapped him in, or swapped him out, sorry, for Mahrez or Mount or someone else that's hitting, right? That's the thing. Everything is a coin flip. We could just only hope that we get them right, I guess, 9 times out of 10. Who's your second keeper, Keith, by the way? If you've gone with Ward, have you gone with... have I missed it? TA, Cancelo, Robertson, James, Digne. Okay, so yeah, I was thinking that with the rest of the team. Okay, Bamford, I do understand that as a pick, to be honest, but again, is that just... Have you kind of just taken it as a gamble, really, that he's looked good? And I think it was one of the press conferences I watched that the manager was saying that he did look really, really sharp, or do you just think that Leeds fixtures suit it? Yeah, so that's the thing with Cancelo. I'm just seeing him in so many drafts, right? And Walker's definitely not a replacement for him by any stretch of the imagination. It really worries me, I suppose. But again, it's the toss up between Martinelli versus Saka and then Cancelo versus Walker. And he didn't really impress me. And City conceded to West Ham, right? So last season. So I think there's probably a goal in it. I suppose, and that kind of eradicates the thinking as to try and get coverage, right? Because Walker's not going to put out the same attacking threat. So we'll see. Yeah, I agree. In the breakout season, he was absolutely brilliant. Like my previous job, the mini league that I was in, there was a guy that didn't actually work on site with us, but was a driver or a courier driver, and he joined the league. And he absolutely smashed it with Bamford. I didn't jump on him as a bandwagon for a long time, and it just hurt me in that season, to be honest. I ended up kind of finishing lower than I really wanted to in the mini league, and yeah. Do you think without Rafinha though that it's going to be a problem, or do you think this this new midfielder has got the same kind of creativity? Mark, best 5.5 defender. Do you think Marcus Alonso is worth a gamble since Chilwell is out? That's a tough one, mate. To be honest, I think having Alonso, I know, because Azpilicueta has re-signed a contract now, hasn't he, for Chelsea? Because I was going to say, Chelsea have been linked with going in for De Jong, and I think Alonso and Azpi was potentially going to be offered as the other way. But anyway, do I think it's worth a gamble since Chilwell is out? What happens with Cucurella though? Does he come in or is it left centre back that he plays, and then does Alonso just really kind of get very, very limited game time? I don't know. This is the honest answer. I think last season he showed glimmers of what the old Alonso can do, right? He's there on the back stick, and to be honest, sometimes you can get a Reece James, in swinging pass all the way over to Alonso, and he absolutely buries him, right? But and again, I think what Keith's talking about with the reason why you put Reece James in is the same difference for Alonso. If you think he's going to get more attacking output at that price point than anyone else, I would go for him, yeah. Yeah, I do agree on the fixtures, to be honest with you, Keith. If I go into... I'm just on Fantasy Football Scout now, just looking at the fixture ticker. So really, Chelsea, their Game Week 3 fixture's probably the trickiest there, right? They've got Wolves, Southampton, Brighton, Everton, Brentford, Forest. It's a really, really good run. So I can see you thinking. Yeah, I can see you thinking. I mean, they play one top 6 side, and then so do Arsenal. Arsenal play United in Game Week 6. So it's very, very even, really, between, I suppose, Bamford and Jesus. And you've saved yourself the million, right? Aronson was in my draft and may still be double up leads. Kind of scares me, but take out the prices. Yeah, no, I do hear you. I completely understand the go for a 5.5 million or a 6 million in going back to Martinelli's point rather than Saka, right, at 8 million. I get it. But if I go with I don't know. I just think that the midfield options are just always better. There's so many seasons where I've got trapped in too much money in the defence, and then the big teams start conceding again, and it just looks, or not even again, but it just looks weaker as an option, right? So it just worries me putting only a 6 million or a 5.5 million second midfielder in. Neto, I'm happy with. Like I'm okay with that. I'd even put him as Bailey as well, one or the other. I wouldn't go 2 at that low end price point. It's guaranteed 2 moves. Then you're moving a defender out for a cheaper option to try and catch up on the midfield options, right? So I don't know. Perisic is the shout, but Conte kind of really didn't say too much. Yeah. Yeah, I do. That's the thing with Perisic anyway. Like I said at the beginning when they first signed him, right? I just saw loads of people putting him in the draft, and he's never been in my draft once ever. Like not even in like kind of just tinkering behind the scenes or in between making videos. Right? I've never put him in. I just don't see it. I don't see it yet. Maybe he'll prove me wrong again. I'll eat my words, but yeah, I don't see it at the moment. Trippier from James and banking 0.5, or is it worth Sanchez upgrade to Ramsdale? Oh, mate. I do like Ramsdale as a pick, I must admit. His save point potential, because Arsenal will concede shots 100% to Palace tonight. 100%. Again, as an isolated combo, Trippier and... So what would it be? It would be Trippier, Ramsdale, James, Sanchez, right? Oh my God, that's really close. Yeah, the Walker replacement. Mate, I guess another thought is rather than Neto, go with Bailey. Walker becomes Dallo, 4.5 option, let's say. and then Sanchez becomes like Edison or something, just to kind of cover. But then again, I worry if I'm worried about clean sheets. You're right. Then what's the point in going for him? Have you got Mount, Keith? Yeah, you have. But yeah, that's the thing, bud. I mean, this is what my 6th season playing, I think. The first 3 seasons weren't even really like proper seasons, right? In terms of thinking or strategy or anything, it was just putting in players for fun and enjoying the game. And I do still enjoy the game. That's the wrong way of putting it, but I've actually tried, let's say, in the past few seasons. And I do like, as far as game week 1 teams go, I was watching Let's Talk FPL Andy just before going live, and he was mentioning that he likes to spend the 100 million. This is the first season that I've actually spent the 100 million, and I want to see how that sort of differentiates in terms of my season start as well. Because I've gone with 1.5 in the bank, I think I had last season. The season before that, I think I kept 1 or 0.5 to the side. But again, I just really like the 8 million midfielder options, and maybe I'm too tunnel visioned on that, but having both Mount and Saka, I haven't seen it in many drafts, right? Maybe the same reasoning for you to go for Bamford over Jesus. You haven't seen him in many drafts. So, yeah, that's kind of my thinking, really. So Walker, yes, you could probably say he's the weakest of picks for me. But I do still like the coverage if they do end up getting clean sheets from that Cancelo perspective, I suppose. How about a Villa fullback? I actually think I'd go Digne over Cash. Digne's more. I think overall his crosses are better. The only problem I have with Digne is he's really prone to a yellow card. He's absolutely shocking at tackling. Every single time he gets too far forward, if you just watch him, just in isolation, just literally just watch him for 15 minutes, 10 minutes and watch, he can never track back properly, and he always ends up getting a yellow card. And from a bonus point perspective, it just knocks him down. If he's got, even if he puts so many crosses in, he has a shot or two, takes good, whatever it is, the BPS system just hates a yellow card, doesn't it? So that's my only doubt for him. But I still think I would lean towards Digne over Cash. That's an interesting take on Sanchez, Mark, I suppose, talking about Cucurella and Bissouma. I think I agree from the Bissouma perspective, but I'm not sure about Cucurella really from a defensive perspective. Maybe you watch more Brighton than I do, mate, but I think he's definitely Cucurella was the attacking threat, right? I don't know what he offered in terms of securing extra, let's say, clean sheets or more security. But I do like the Trippier Ramsdale pick. I do like it, mate. And like I say, my personal outlook is that going without a Chelsea defender, I don't think is going to hurt so much. But we'll see. Keith, yeah, my second season had 0.5 last year. Yeah, I think, I don't know what sort of like your first few weeks looked like, but mine, I did have a 3 to 5 week kind of plan. I was planning in who I was going to bring in and different players, and made sure that I had money in the bank to be able to react. And it kind of went my way briefly. Again, it was my previous workplace, but I was top of the mini league up until I think when sort of COVID re-hit again in December, and it just really started messing me up at that point. So I was kind of up there, and I was keeping up with the pack, if you like, in terms of the overall ranks. But I still just think it hurt me more than helped me really keeping money in the bank. And yes, Keith, that is exactly it, mate. Scott Parker's come out and said, they've basically got no players, right? They're looking really, really weak. They're not where they should be. Ultimately, they've lost too many players. And again, talking about Andy at Let's Talk FPL, I watched his video talking about an isolated Kane versus Haaland pick. And there is argument to say that Kane might be a good pick on game week 3, right? But if you have a look at Arsenal have got Bournemouth, so you have a look at the first 3 Bournemouth fixtures, you've got Villa against them. So I suppose in that isolated pick, Bailey's probably the best option from a Villa perspective. Then you've got Haaland game week 2, and then either Jesus, or I suppose in your case, maybe, would you consider Martinelli as captain against them? Yeah, Mark, mate, that's the thing, right? Is that I think there was a point, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he got 18 points. It was a double game week, I'm almost certain, and lots of people in the community were thinking about captaining him. And he got a goal, an assist, or a goal and 2 assists, or 2 goals and assists. Was it against Newcastle? I think that was the game where he got 18 points, and then he didn't come on or didn't play in the second game week, which basically saved my bacon as well, mate, because I didn't have him that week. And I think the game week after that, I knee-jerked him in, and he scored 1. I'm almost certain that's kind of how it goes with him. But that's the point with Reece James. It's like he caused me so much pain as well, like in terms of it just you want to react to him and you want to be able to try and keep up with the pack sometimes, but then he goes and offers you 2 points the next time, right? So I think it's just a mess I didn't want to get myself into again. And I suppose that goes for slightly off topic, I suppose, but with the Mahrez pick, right? He really excites me from an FPL asset perspective. I think he's got excellent ability. I think he's got, a natural talent to be able to finish, but he only plays sometimes 50 minutes, right? Or 30 minutes in a game. And that's probably more likely to happen this season because of the 5 sub rule. Like, he might just come on for 30-minute cameos, and then am I really going to want 8 million tied up in a player like that? No. And it just gives you that extra kind of pet roulette, mini headache. Same for Reece James. Does he play in right wing back? Is he going to attack in output? Are they going to concede as well, meaning he scores 1 point? Too many question marks for me, mate, which is why I've gone away from him. Keith again, top 4K about 10 weeks, then took a -16 to change. Yeah, I mean, if that was your first season, definitely -16s. I mean, they can pay off long term. They can even pay off short term, of course, right? But just, yeah, I think if you've started to watch content and start thinking about the game a little bit differently this year, I'd say maximum is -8. And -8 territories really are only, I would say, to set yourself up for future chip usage or double game weeks, right? There's future planning that goes into that. So yeah, I mean, if you watch me throughout the season, I'd probably, like I say, I'll maximum take a -8, but that is just, yeah, that's really pushing it. And last season, again, that was another kind of thing for me. I just changed my strategy to try and minimise how many minuses I took. Obviously, we can't see the data now on what I did, but yeah, I definitely tried to reduce that. Yeah, I think that's a good shout, Keith, to be honest. If you're happy to go with Bamford for the first few weeks, again, what's Leeds' fixtures to start with? Wolves and Southampton. I can see him doing something. Does he do more than Jesus, though, at Crystal Palace and Leicester? Could be odds even, right? Could be pretty much the same. But if you're thinking about taking him out and targeting the Bournemouth fixture, it's the same reasoning for people that are going for Kane and Haaland, right? You're just booking in that transfer for the Bournemouth game. I don't think there's any problem in that. And again, so I didn't mention, but that's talking about the double free transfers. That's one thing that I tried to bank as much as possible last season. Again, just playing slightly differently to how I did before. And it does a world of good because you can reset so much with 3 transfers, right? You only take a -4 and you can almost completely change the structure of your team with three transfers. So I think I agree with you that if you set your team up for game weeks 1 and 2, game week 3 is very, very easy to navigate them, right? And you can maybe keep up with the pack if there's a standout pick. What's the time anyway? Right, 28 minutes, guys. Man, still haven't changed anything yet, so we'll see. All this talking about it, but yeah, just Walker for me now at this point, I think is the Achilles heel of this squad for me. Okay, fair enough. I do see that he could easily haul against us again. Yeah, he's an absolute machine. He's an absolute machine. I don't think we'll have 9-0 on aggregate this season, though. I'm just saying. I'm going to throw it out there. Could be 9-1 at least. Carl Walker. Am I going to do it to myself? There we go. See, it's the first time I've gone onto this page. I'm not sure I want to do it. Should I go without Robbo? See, I think before one of my drafts was this, right, with 2-5 Millers still and Gabriel instead of Walker. But triple Arsenal, am I going to do it to myself? Yeah, Martinelli and Cancelo. That's the thing, right? I would go Martinelli, Saka, then, and that triple up on Arsenal attack. I don't know if I can do it, mate. I really don't. I did consider that. I did consider it. Yeah, exactly. Triple Arsenal. That is the problem for me. I just can't do it to myself. Like you said, I feel like it's a 10k or a 5 million, right? Nowhere in between. It's going to go one extreme or the other. Yeah, that was the original choice, right? Martinelli and Cancelo for Saka and Walker. Oh, my man Saka, though. My man Saka. Again, for the same reasoning, right, that Mark was talking about with Reece James, this is another thing for me. I just can't... Maybe it's too, like, what happened last season is affecting my decision-making, but Saka, again, was another person that I just didn't really jump on. I went with Odegaard, I think, at some point to try and alleviate the difference between them. He did okay, Odegaard, to be fair. I think he actually had quite a few attacking outputs, but he still didn't match Saka by a good, say, 25 points. So that's my worry with Martinelli as well, right? Like, we're thinking that he offers this amount of value because he's 6 million, but what if Saka goes and outscores him by 30 points again? You know, do you make that up in the Cancelo pick versus Walker? That's the argument, I suppose, for me there. Grealish or Bernardo? Bernardo is nailed. Or do I keep Sake and Almiron instead of... I don't think Almiron is a pick, to be honest with you, big win slots, mate. I think just... I understand with pre-season data, again, I keep going back to the kind of the arguments that we use to put players in and not. I just don't think he's an option. I really don't. I think Newcastle... You could do the same with kind of reasoning that I've gone with Trippier, right, and move him on game week 3, essentially, because those first few fixtures look okay, but I suppose it just depends on where you're moving it to. Bernardo Silva, again, he's still possibly linked with a move away. Grealish is one I'm definitely watching. Grealish, I think, is going to have a potential breakout season, and with the World Cup this year, he didn't play much of the Euros, right? Like in terms of, he did, but he didn't play every game. So I think he's going to want to impress Southgate as well. Same for all the young English players, right? That's the thing. Mount and Saka, there's a lot of talent that's out there, and I think that ultimately this is the season where people are they're going to want to try and do as best they can to get into that England shirt, right? Do I keep Sake and Almiron instead of Marcelo Bernardo? Saka. Yeah, Keith, I know that, mate. I know that. At the end of the day, yeah, it's just every pick that we pick, right, is you could consider it punt territory. there's data to back up our choices or our selections, but ultimately there's so much luck involved. I mean, I keep seeing these videos, right, about artificial intelligence of and what the predicted points of these players are. I think Fantasy Football Hub, which is another tool as well, or another website, there's a free tool on there that's got like my team or something, and you can out of 100% it scores you on how good your team is based on the AI's recommendations or output, and it's all rubbish at the end of the day. We don't know what's actually going to happen, right? It's good to use as a complementary tool, right? I'm not saying that we shouldn't think about it, but just I think you're right, mate. Just let's do us, basically. Bernardo stays. Pep likes him too much. Yeah, I think the only other thing, if he does stay though, what I would consider is that how far back is he going to play in terms of how deep is he going to play? What we tended to see when players like Mahrez or Grealish or Foden play out on the wing, he drops a little bit deeper, and again becomes the pass before the pass that gets you the FPL points. I mean, that being said, I actually had him in my team last year, right? I think there was a kind of good run of game weeks that he had where he absolutely smashed it. And I think it was him versus Foden for me, but I got priced out of Foden by like 0.2 million, right? Put in Bernardo because he was the best City attacker I could get for that point, and he absolutely smashed it over Foden. So again, going back to what Keith said, right? We just don't know. It's pot luck. It's completely up in the air. But anyway, sorry, it's a bit of a tangent. Do I like Bernardo as a pick? I would say no from an FPL perspective. That's the answer I'll go with. "20 minutes, guys. 20 minutes. What am I doing? Gabriel, Cancelo, Walker or Robbo? Thing is, right, with Liverpool's fixtures, Robbo, man, he can just... Fulham, Palace, all right, okay. United, game week 3. Not even interested in the conceding or not, to be honest, on that game. Then Bournemouth. Like, these first 4 fixtures, amount of attacking output, and then it's, again, another set of potentially weaker teams. Newcastle will probably do better this year, right? Everton, not convincing at all. Wolves at home. We don't know what we're going to get from them yet. Decisions, boys. Yeah, that's a good point. There's, I'd say overall I've made maybe about 4 or 5 different drafts. I've always gone back to the 4-4-2, but I'd say I've had kind of 4 or 5 in my thinking. And you're right, if we directly compared, one of the older drafts versus what I end up going with, for sure there's going to be a difference, right? I can't be upset with what I choose because, again, I've kind of done enough research to back the picks in the first place. That's my thinking anyway. So I kind of own the picks, I'll take ownership of them if they flop. Welcome to the stream, Hosper. So Raya, Sanchez and Perisic, or Ramsdale and Trippier. Ramsdale and Trippier for me, mate. Again, Perisic in terms of the conversation, he's just... I think he's a wait and see for me. He really is. Just give it a few weeks. Let's see if he comes into Conte's team regularly. Let's see what his fitness looks like and the positions he's taking up. And then for sure, I think he comes into the thinking then, right? But as for kind of the most secure double pick there, I would go Ramsdale and Trippier. Right, where were we at before? Walker... I mean, what I'll do in a different tab, I'm just going to take a look at the other 5 mil options over Walker. Yeah, so Cash, Digne, Gabriel, Cody, Dyer. Nah. No, it's just not happening. Semedo, injured anyway. No, I think the only other alternative to Walker I would go with is potentially in terms of 5 million is Cucurella, right? But he's not. I don't think he starts. I don't think he starts this weekend. He's been training separately, as far as I understand, from the Brighton team, so he might still kind of be up to speed. Tuchel might really like what he sees of him, but I think he's way too much of a punt territory. Bench someone, Reece James, Trippier or Walker. In isolation, mate, I'll probably bench Walker, mate. Even though I've got him in my starting 11. Yeah, I'd probably bench him in that situation. Up to you if you want to put your whole squad in there as well, bud. I'm more than happy to have a look at it. $15 minutes. I think we're pretty much locked in, gents. I can't see myself changing it now. I've looked at this on my screen for long enough, to be honest. I've looked at it at the app. Looked on it at the app as well, and I just think, yeah, this is it. This is me. Yeah, mate. Going back to the persuasion, Keith. I think, yeah, stats like that do make me wonder. But I think I'm going to take the punt on my boy Saka. I think he's just, yeah. I just think he's just overall going to do better than Martinelli. But again, maybe I'm wrong. You know, it's two Brazilians linking up in two Gabriels, but yeah. Have you got Robbo, Keith? I can't remember, mate, on your draft. Is that Martinelli you're talking about in terms of being nailed? Because I think, yeah, okay. I think Smith Rowe definitely comes into Arteta's thinking, right? And kind of puts it at risk a little bit, I suppose, but where are we at? 12 minutes. Yep. So yeah, so you have got Robbo. 5 at the back as well. Yeah, I think it's a solid team, bud. I think that is a solid team. Maybe something random to add to do with the 4.5 striker slot. Just something to consider. Before, I never really, in terms of game week 1, I never thought about the impact of transfers kind of in and out in terms of ownership, right, for the price. I think last year I went with Brownhill as a 4.5 million midfielder. And I think because he was so highly owned in terms of like 20-30% or something, when people started selling him, he went down to as low, I think, as like 4.3, and he just lost a little bit of value in the team. And something just to consider, one of the reasons why I've gone with Plange is that I don't ever see myself potentially tripling up on Palace, and it's only 1.6% ownership. I think there's probably someone that's lower as well than that, but maybe something to consider just as that last kind of point before the deadline. Yeah, good point. Good shout, Keith, on the team news. I'm not sure in terms of who to go with, really, or who to trust. I haven't been searching long enough, really, or I've only been on Twitter since I basically started creating content, right, 5 weeks ago. So I have absolutely no idea. It's the thing that people talking about Cucurella as well, starting against Everton. Which two do I go with in the starting 11 among Bailey, Cash and Neto? Mate, to be honest, I think I would go with Neto and Bailey. I do think Cash against Bournemouth, look, let's face it, he can. It's almost, you would argue, a potential guaranteed clean sheet, right? So I would say it's between what do you think is going to happen? Do you think Bailey's going to offer enough attacking threat to cover either Cash's attacking threat versus the clean sheet? Or do you think that potentially Bournemouth could score against Villa? That's what I would, ask yourself, I guess. But my first instinct was Bailey and Neto. Cheers for the follow, bud. Appreciated. Like I say, I've only really started using it over the past kind of 5 weeks. I'm not massively active on there, really. Same for Instagram, really. But having a full-time job as well as doing this on the side is sometimes takes its toll, right? So I can't always put content across all platforms, but focusing on YouTube mainly, so plenty of content through the season that I'll be making. But yeah, if you are new, guys, please consider subscribing. Again, pretty brand new to the sphere, really, in terms of YouTube, but seeing what I can do this season in terms of improving ranks. So if you do like what you see, please consider subscribing. Hit that follow button on Twitter as well. Again, as mentioned, I'm not massively active on there just yet, but no doubt over the weekend I'll put some stuff out, I'm sure. Whose tweets that about Jesus, mate? How close are we? 7 minutes. Okay, fair. I mean, I wonder how many managers will react to that though. What is he at? What's his ownership at? Mate, it's absolutely incredible. He's nearly 80% owned, 76.8. There is a downside of owning a player in this bracket, to be honest, is that just, you know, if how quickly he will drop in value if people start selling him. You know, I don't think I've seen a price drop twice in a single week before, but I don't know, you can see it now, right? Scoring 1 point, getting booked. Crazy. But anyway, I'm just, yeah, it's not even ownership for me, really. I had him in the Game Week 1 squad since the very beginning. He's just never left. Anything in terms of the press conferences to note? Let's have a look. Tuchel on his forward options. There he is. Does he play though? Too risky for me. Too risky. One to watch though, for sure. Yeah, I think going back to the Chelsea conversation, I know I said earlier that, yeah, I am worried about them a little bit in terms of what they showed at pre-season, but I still think that Mason Mount's got the quality right to produce something. He was involved in pretty much everything for them. Yeah, we'll see how he does. What time the game will start? Well, the cut-off, mate, is 6:30 English time, British summer time. So we've got 4 minutes now. 4 minutes, guys, until we are absolutely locked. And then it normally, if this is your first season, normally it's about 30 minutes, something like that. The website and the app goes down for while everything gets updated. And then normally from about 7 o'clock onwards, we can see what people have done in mini leagues and stuff like that. Plus 9 game. Yeah, exactly, Keith. That's the thing, right? You don't gain anything from him. The only difference would be captaincy, right? For obviously the double points, but it doesn't. No one's going to captain him game week 1, I don't think. Salah's the man. Ramsdale, Neto, Oraya, and Martinelli. Ramsdale and Neto, or Raya and Martinelli. I'm going to go Raya and Martinelli on that one, mate. Mount and Saka are the only 2 8 million you can trust at the moment. The jury is out on most of them for now. Yeah, check your captain too. Yes, it's definitely sitting on Mo. I've got Vice on Haaland as well. I mean, I don't think Vice is going to come into play this week, but definitely it's refresh just to make sure. Williams, Andreas, Plange. I think I like that order of the bench as well. That's fine. Sanchez, yeah. Ward, okay. I think we're pretty much locked, guys. I don't think I'm going to change. But yeah, I agree, mate, with the 2 8 millions. This is why I landed on Saka and Mount. You know, when I did my comparison video of the 8 mils, I hands down I put Mahrez in that top bracket, right? I thought, okay, looking at his data, looking at his stats, looking at, you know, from an eye test perspective, he's so exciting to watch. And then I've just defaulted away from him, just simply based on not only the Community Shield, right, but just on the basis of consistency. It's too risky. I don't want to play the mini game of Pep Roulette. Plus substitute. Yes, mate. Just done that as well myself. Hello, bud. How you doing? And to you as well, Keith, mate. Good luck. Good luck. Two minutes, guys. Cheers, Sonny, mate. I don't know about that. I'm not too sure I can be called the guru yet. We'll see what happens, mate, this season. We'll see what happens. One minute to go. We're almost there. Oh, I've really gone Kyle Walker. There we go. We're locked in, boys. We are locked in. I've gone Kyle Walker. Just never thought I'd do it, to be honest, but I've done it. Anyway, I've got some family come up for the weekend, so I'm going to go and have a takeaway with them and a few beers and just enjoy the evening, to be honest. So yeah, give good luck to everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching. Really appreciate it. If you haven't already, then please do hit that subscribe button. It does help me out. Plenty more content to come this season. So yeah, good luck everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And like I say, if you haven't already, follow me over at Twitter as well. I'm sure at some point over the weekend I'll put out some reactions, whether it's double-digit Salah again on that captaincy against Fulham, or Kieran Trippier or Kyle Walker doing some wonders for me. Let's see. So yeah, good luck, and thanks again for watching. And